Lovely. I think most people are in now. It was maybe a few stragglers, but I think we'll start, Victoria. So yes, so welcome everybody to the Chorleywood Bookshop, a Zoom evening with Victoria Hislop. Thank you so much for joining us ahead of the publication of your latest book, 1 August Night. Publications on Thursday. We were hoping that Antonia was going to be in conversation with Victoria, but now it's going to be me. So I'm delighted to step into Antonia's shoes and be in conversation with you. So, so just for people that aren't familiar with Zoom, and welcome and well done for sort of embracing this technology. At the bottom bar, you'll see there's a chat button and a Q&A button. So either of those, if you would like to, throughout the evening, type your comments or your questions to Victoria into that box, and then I'll be putting the questions to Victoria shortly. So without further ado, welcome, Victoria. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's lovely to be with you. Absolutely phenomenal. Last year, I think I had the best event of my whole book tour with you in Chorleywood, and I always remember those evenings because there's such a fantastic, enthusiastic audience and always very interactive, lots of questions, and just wonderful to be here, even if it's virtually.
No, well, thank you. It's really special, and as you know, it's so important to support independent bookshops at this time, and it's lovely that authors like yourself, you know, support us. We support you, and it's lovely that you support us as well.
100%. Without you, we wouldn't be here either. And the readers who are all out there with the Zoom, none of us would be sitting here on this dark October evening together.
I know there are some advantages to Zoom, aren't there, that we don't have.
I think so. I think so. And the really obvious thing to say about this sort of difficult period and the sort of phase of it that we're about to go into is that books are really going to keep us company in a way that we might not have, you know, during the spring and the summer, you know, we could be in our gardens. But I think the next few months, I think books are going to be a really phenomenal support for all of us. So it's wonderful that you're there and probably sending books out to people who can't come in and get them. So
yes,
hurrah for reading.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the book. I mean, first of all, what a stunning cover. Most people haven't seen it yet because we haven't let them have it until they're not going to get it till at least Thursday. But it's an absolutely beautiful cover, isn't it? And
it is. It's, as people probably know, it's the sequel to this one. So it does look rather different, but they're very much in the same sort of vein, the same characters, the same writing style. And the island came out 15 years ago. And during that time, we've sort of evolved the style of my covers. So I felt that we should keep going with that. But we do still have a boat. We have very much a sort of typical Greek evening with that full moon. And in fact, this coastline here is actually the real coastline just opposite Spinalonga. So there's a very distinct visual connection between them.
Wow, yes. So what made you write the sequel? I mean, The Island was so phenomenally successful and continues to be so. Why did you
it's
write
something
it?
I never imagined I would write a sequel. I never planned to do it. I sort of felt that this one had come to an end. But it was, strangely enough, I had to do something that, again, I'm not a great fan of doing. I had to give a lecture in creative writing along with another tutor, and it was in Cambridge. It was a very academic postgraduate audience. And I sat there, I can't actually remember what I said to the audience, but I sat there listening with great interest to what the other lecturer was saying. And I thought, oh, I can learn something here. And he said to his audience and to me, he said, you will either be an overwriter or an underwriter, i.e. somebody who tends to maybe elaborate and be very kind of excessive in description, or you will be very spare in how you write. And I suddenly thought, that's me. I am definitely on the spare side. And on the way home, I was thinking, in the island, the main action takes place over sort of 420 pages. And then there's another 30 or 40 where I literally gallop through about 50 or 60 years just to kind of put it to bed. And I looked at it and I thought, actually, there are characters who we never really see or understand what happens to them. So I did what I kind of began to think of as, finding an old camera in the cupboard, from the olden days when we used film, and sort of opening it up and thinking, oh, there's a film there from a little while back. I'll take it off. I don't think you can even get them developed in Boots anymore. I think you have to send them off somewhere. But I thought, I want to develop this film and expose the images that have just been kind of waiting there for me. And of course, another main factor was that this was back in March, when we suddenly found ourselves literally more or less locked in our houses. And it was a very difficult time for everybody. But I thought, right, we've all got to do our best. Let's see what we can make of this. And, for a writer, it was a period which you could use with great kind of productivity because there were no distractions. One's normal life has, meetings, which we now all know are completely unnecessary because we can do it at home. We see meeting is very important. So we had no meetings. We couldn't go out shopping. We couldn't meet our friends. We certainly couldn't go to the hairdresser. So I sat at home and I started to write. And of course, it gave me real motivation in a way to be writing something and enjoying it, because I was getting, huge pleasure out of, in a way, getting these characters out of their boxes. And I worked many more hours a day than I normally do. I realised, in retrospect. So I wrote it in about 4 months, which is a very short time for me. And, it kept my mind, kept me mentally and emotionally very sort of busy and productive. And another sort of factor, not one that's meant to sort of tug the heartstrings in any way whatsoever, but people will see the dedication page is to my mother, who died in a care home on the 17th of March. So this was like a week before. I'm sure many people in the audience, have gone through something very similar. And I thought, well, we couldn't grieve in anything like the same way. We couldn't have a funeral. We hadn't been there when she died. So it was tricky. It was terrible. I'm not going to sort of make light of it. But I thought, what can I do as almost like a gift to her? Because the island, I'm very always sort of love to think of how many copies float around in the world, with my mother's name on, but that was dedicated to her. It's in here somewhere. Anyway, the dedication is to my mother. And then I dedicated this to her memory. And I think, given that we couldn't go through the normal rites of passage, it was like a gift for her as well. So there's a million reasons I wrote it, and somehow, it was the best possible thing that could have happened to me personally during those months. And I hope readers I hope they'll enjoy it. Just sort of without telling the story, it in a sense finds a resolution and a catharsis for some of the characters from the island that we don't quite know what happened to them. So I think a lot of emotional, let's say, therapy. I think writing is a therapy in some ways, and I think I expended a lot of emotion into the pages of the book.
So it's interesting you say that it took, was it four months to write?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
how long would a book normally take for you? I mean, is that, I mean, that seems very short to me, but how long did your other books,
Yes.
like The
Well,
Island, just to put it in perspective?
yes. Good thought. It's with all my other books. I have done 2, possibly even 3 years of research. So that's often the lion's share of the time, and then the writing is the the final stage. And of course, with One August Night, I couldn't research in the normal way because I couldn't physically be in Greece, and also I'd already established my characters and my places. So that's why I
Mm.
wrote so quickly. So it was not just that I couldn't go out and meet my friends in the wine bar, to waste time, which must be what I normally do, but also because I'm not, traveling, researching, meeting people. So it was very, very focused
Mm.
time. It was sort of 12 hours a day, and yeah, as I say, without the research period. There was one thing I had to research, which um, was actually for me quite sort of funny, and it's probably only 3 sentences in the whole book, but I was trying to research shipbuilding, and of course that it was easy enough, but in normal circumstances I would have actually gone to a shipyard and watched people building ships. So I felt a bit deprived that I couldn't go to a shipyard, but on the internet, as we all know,
Mm.
there's a lot we can find out.
Yes, absolutely. So obviously, yeah, so you sort of wrote it at home. I mean, I suppose I had visions of you sitting in, Greece
Oh,
somewhere,
I wish. No, absolutely.
writing it.
Funnily, I mean, just because I think it's quite interesting, and I think everyone could probably write, a novel or a book about their period of lockdown, because it was such a strange and unexpected
Mm.
life event for all of us.
Mm.
Um, and I had a plane ticket booked for the 15th of March. I was meant to be going to Greece on that Sunday. And then, fate just took over, and my mother, as I say, had died 2 days later, which shows how unexpected that was. But, I should have been in Greece for that period. But, something up there,
Yes.
whether he's got a beard or just the fates, something kept me in the UK. So that was a good thing in the end.
Yes, it was. And tell us a bit about the title. How did you come to the title?
Well, a lot again. It all, now I think about it, resonates again with this last few months for all of us. That the way in which something very unexpected can take place and completely change our lives, certainly for a period. And I thought, well, this One August Night, which is the night when all the patients have left Spinalonga and they've come back to Plaka, and there's a big, what the Greeks call a glendi. It's a big party, and they're all dancing, mingling, the once sick people with the well. And on that August night, this party suddenly, as people will remember from the other one, turns into a tragedy because Anna is shot by her husband. She's essentially murdered by jealous Andreas. So they're all watching the fireworks, as people will probably remember, looking up into the sky. And then suddenly there are these bangs that someone suddenly realizes are not fireworks, they're actually gunshots. So this One August Night, which is so memorable, not just for the cure of the disease, but also the murder of Anna, is sort of the beginning of a big new chapter for many people. So yes, One August Night. And it sort of struck me that, that day when we were suddenly told it's lockdown. You'll probably remember yourself, Cheryl, the day you said you've got to close your shop.
Mm.
What? I mean, who would have thought of all the essential shops they should have kept open?
Exactly.
Bookshops. I mean, I was amazed, really, well, horrified, the idea that that day, I think you probably had a few hours notice, you locked your door.
Yes, absolutely. In
And
fact,
you'll remember
we
that
decided
day.
to close the day before on that Sunday, as the news was getting worse and
Yeah.
the situation seemed untenable. We actually just made that decision on the Sunday to close. So we were.
Oh, did you?
You were 24 hours ahead of Boris.
Right. Yeah.
So we
But
just, for everyone's safety, it just,
yeah, seemed a good thing. But you'll always remember that date.
Absolutely.
There are certain dates, aren't there? Our birthdays. It's always good, often good dates, but then sometimes a really bad thing, and you think, I'll never forget that date.
So, no, that's right. Like, where were you when John Lennon was?
Yes, absolutely. You do remember. Actually, I don't remember the date of that, but I remember where I was.
Yes, that's more likely, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's right.
So yes, the title is it's slightly, I suppose it's meant to be a little bit double-edged, because you sort of look at that and you think, oh, lovely, one August night, oh, a little bit romantic. But I think, that's sort of my way of not shocking readers. I don't intend to shock people, but slightly discombobulate them, because they think, oh, that looks pretty, I wonder what happens. And then you go, oh, something rather dramatic takes place.
So, without giving too much away, or could you just read us the short piece?
Yeah,
please.
Absolutely love to.
Don't give no plot spoilers.
No, I won't give a plot spoiler. I'll give just the context.
Yes. Whet all our appetites. I mean,
I'll whet your appetites a little bit. Well, I'm going to assume that lots of people have read The Island, so they will remember the character of Manolis. And Manolis is the cousin of Andreas, and he's the cousin who returns from basically wandering the world and being a bit of a Lothario, a bit of a sort of good time guy. And he comes back to Ilunda, which is near Plaka, and moves back in with his cousin. And of course, the cousin's wife, Andreas's wife, falls madly in love with him. So he's one of the characters that we follow during One August Night, and his life is obviously hugely affected by the death of his lover. He feels very guilty, he feels responsible, which indeed indirectly, he didn't put the gun in Andreas's hand, but Andreas knows that Anna is having a relationship with him. That's no surprise in the book, we all know that. So he leaves and he basically travels to try and, in a way, find his own peace of mind again. So in Greece, when a man is basically weighed down with grief, it won't stop him going to a bar or somewhere where there's music. A typical 1950s Cretan man, probably a British man as well, finds comfort in alcohol and in a way being with strangers and letting go of his emotions. But another thing that will happen in Greece is that a Greek man might dance, and there's a particular dance called the Zebekiko, which a very grief-stricken man will sometimes use to express his feelings. And in this scene, Manoli is in a sort of a bar, a music venue, and he's with people who hardly know him, but they suddenly see him. It's almost like he exposes his inner self through dancing. So this is Manoli dancing. The people nearby immediately dragged their glass-laden tables out of his way to give him space to begin the slow solo dance. With several carafes of ouzo inside him and grief weighing on him like a boulder, he stretched his arms out like an eagle and began to turn. The movements were personal, but the tradition of the Zebekiko was known to everyone. It was a dance that should only be performed by a man, and only by a man with grief to express. As the musicians played, and the insistent beat thumped and repeated and thumped again, Manolis revolved slowly in a trance-like state, his eyes glazed, unfocused. Someone threw a plate at his feet, and one of the girls tossed a flower that she had been wearing in her hair. Manolis was aware of neither. Yanis, Dimitris, and several others knelt down as if in worship and clapped their hands in time with the distinctive 9/8 rhythm. The image of you next to me, all dressed in white, a beam of light. I wait to see the empty sheets and die, sang the musician. The dance gave him the opportunity to reveal the darkest corners of his soul. The movements were restrained, tense, controlled, and yet they opened a window into his heart for anyone who looked and cared to understand. All eyes were on him, willing him on. Still turning with arms outstretched, he folded forwards and then bent back in a limbo. The sight of this tall and strikingly beautiful man performing something almost acrobatic held the attention of everyone in the room. With each turn, he expressed the agony he felt, for the woman he loved, for the tragedy of her death, for his wretched cousin languishing now in a prison cell, for his uncle and aunt lamenting the fate of their only son, for Sophia, who had lost both mother and father, for Yorgos, who mourned his daughter, and for Maria, who would be weeping over her sister. Everyone watched him, mesmerised.
Ooh.
So that's what he's shouldering during that dance, is all this, in a way, chaos and destruction that he's left behind. He's run away from it, but it's still, inside, haunting him.
Yeah.
But by the end, he will see him finding a new life. So, as ever, by reading something at the beginning, it sounds very gloom and doom, but there's a lot of kind of optimism and hope that comes later.
Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, really.
Thank you, Cheryl. I know in the I know in the audience there are lots of Greek friends and Greek Cypriot friends, and they'll be very familiar with that dance. And it's that sort of one where you spread your arms out and revolve. It's an amazing thing to see. It really is. And actually, there are some fantastic examples on YouTube. So when people are reading, I do urge them to look up Zibekiko, and there's some amazing clips from films and TV. There's a TV series where there's a sort of live bouzouki venue, and I just adored watching that when I was researching the book.
Yeah, no, that was a really excellent passage.
So next time we come, we'll have a mass Zibekiko demonstration.
Come to Chorleywood. Yeah. Whenever that may be, whenever the vaccine
soon.
Yeah, let's hope so. So I'm very happy to take questions from the audience if you'd like to send them to me, and then we can sort of open this up. Be lovely to hear from everybody. In the meantime, I've got lots of questions I can ask Victoria, but just so as everyone knows, that please feel free to ask Victoria anything you want. Okay, so one other thing, just not to do with the book, is you told me last time that you were taking Greek lessons, and how's all that coming on? I mean, are you fluent, or would you say you were fluent? Or
I'm getting there.
You're modest, obviously. You're very modest.
Well, there are so many different levels with language, and real fluency, I think, is when you can read the equivalent of the Financial Times without a dictionary. So that's my goal. I want to read the main newspaper is Kathimerini, which is sort of, I suppose, more like the Times, but I think it's even more intellectual than the Times. So yes, I mean, I can communicate very happily. I do all my sort of PR and all my meetings in Greek in Greece. And it's the thing about languages, and this is not the reason that I started. I think it's very good for the mind. It's very good for the brain. neurologists say it keeps certain connections going. So I always feel it's like a really good mental exercise. It's like doing aerobics. And of course, when I'm in Greece, to be able to talk to people and in their own language, particularly older people, I've noticed this a lot, that I can sit down and talk to somebody in their 70s or 80s, and if they've been brought up in Crete, they've probably never had the opportunity to learn English. Younger people all do, but it's fantastic talking with older people and just being with somebody without having to have another person there. So it's very, very important to me, the language.
Are there a lot of dialects for someone like you sort of coming to the language?
Yes, there are. In Crete, there are lots of words that I sometimes think, that's odd, I didn't really quite catch what they said, because they've substituted another word. And I think probably most islands have a few of their own words, and then accents are quite strong, particularly in the mountains in Crete. So yeah, I'm trying to keep up with all that. But no, it's my life's work to really get on top of it. But I'm getting there.
Impressive. Yeah. Okay, so John has asked, what started your love of Greece?
Gosh, well, it began when I was a teenager, and I think a lot of teenagers go to a country and they have a holiday romance, with a nice Greek waiter. But that wasn't for me at all. I just fell in love with the whole place. Yeah, I wanted to take the whole place home with me. So I think it was when I was 17, and I hadn't travelled much. We didn't go on Mediterranean holidays throughout my life. We were in Sussex or Kent for most of the holidays I had. And when my parents separated during my teenage, and my mother started working for the first time, she was in charge of, her money. And for her, that was a priority, was to take her two daughters, me and my sister, somewhere more exotic than Bognor Regis. And that's exactly what she did. And I think Greece was the second place that we went. And for me, it was just the beginning of a lifelong passion. I just absolutely adored it. I mean, everything about it. We all love, I'm sure, I know you've been to Greece. That the colour of the sky, warm sea, clear sea, tiny, tiny shells, which when you've never seen shells that aren't, size in, big enough to use for ashtrays. That was what most of my childhood holidays had been, gathering, ashtray style shells that my father could use, around the house. And suddenly there were these things just so tiny and so perfect, so it was the little things and then the big things as well. And I've never looked back. So.
I have another question here. And do you live for some of the time in a year in Crete? And if so, where in Crete?
Yes, we have a house near Ios Nikolaos in the east side, or to viewers that side. So yes, I don't like to count up how many days. I mean, in normal years, it's several months a year that I'm in Crete. Usually a couple in the summer, and then always Easter, because we all love going to Greece for Easter. It's a very special, vibrant, social, colourful time. And then, May is lovely, September's lovely, and I even, I love November and December when, it's, again, can be very beautiful. I don't swim usually during those months, but it's lovely for walking. So yes, I spend a lot of time in Crete. Yeah. And I don't think, I haven't talked about it much yet, but I recently became a Greek citizen, which is another, big step on my kind of Greek journey, if you like. That happened in September. So, but, I won't be spending probably any more time there, but just as much, several months a year. which is
And is that a
lovely.
difficult process, or what sort of
Well,
criteria?
it can be that I was very fortunate. I was given honorary citizenship, so it was a gift. And you know, the great cliche is beware Greeks bearing gifts, but I didn't want to question this at all. I was totally thrilled. I had a call from Kyriakos Mitsotakis at the end of July to offer it to me over the phone, and I don't think I've ever been happier, except, you know, when I got married and my children were born. You know, it was up there in the top
10.
three. Oh no, I wasn't. No, because I've only got 2 children, 1 marriage. So I would say it's in the top 4. It's the 4th most exciting.
We won't ask which order they come in.
So that was a really, really exciting thing for
Brilliant.
me. Yeah. So I mean, I would have been prepared to do all the exams that, you know, people have to go through, as they do to become British citizens, but I didn't need to, so it was very nice. Yeah. When I come up to see you next, I'll bring my Greek passport.
Oh yes,
to show you.
Oh, that's brilliant. I have a question here from Ruth. She said, it's a long time since I read The Island. Would you recommend reading it again before reading One Night?
Oh, well, I think she should buy a new copy from you. I don't think you have to, because it is written in such a way that there's no, you know, repeated pages, or I kind of give you all the information that you need quite subtly, so that you don't have to reread it. And I actually don't think you do have to reread it, but you know, if you've got time on your hands, but you know, there are many, many other new books behind you to be read. So I think I would read it, and then if you feel the need, stop and go back. But no, I haven't written it so that you absolutely have to have The Island fresh in your head. I think that would be unfair. So I made sure that, you know, there's nothing missing. You kind of pick up the facts. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, yes, I think it's okay not to, but lovely if you want to. I'm really flattered if you think The Island deserves another read.
So it's another lady called Cheryl. Thank you, Victoria. I love your books. Now that you've written a sequel for Spinalonga, do you think you might also do a sequel for Famagusta? I've been all the areas you've written about.
That is an amazing question, Cheryl, and thank you. And I suspect you have Greek Cypriot friends to have asked that. I mean, it made the BBC kind of news stories a few weeks ago. Gosh, sometimes hard to answer questions and you know, be unemotional and kind of keep one's mood in the right zone. But you know, I think it's only 2 weeks ago, the Turks opened up the beach, which is in front of Famagusta, Varosha, has other names too, and Mochostos. And you know, this is, in my view, a completely illegal action. So the Sunrise, just, you know, to give a background for anybody who didn't read that, is my book about the invasion of Cyprus, and the cordoning off of that beautiful and very, very valuable and wonderful city of Amochostos. And since 1974, the beach in front of it and the city have been no-go areas. So the opening up of the beach, you know, is a very provocative and big step. And it definitely made me think, wow, that story hasn't finished either. You know, when I wrote the novel, it came out during a time when I was just very optimistic and hopeful that some kind of agreement would be reached. I was hoping to have a very different ending to that novel. I really thought there was such, serious negotiations going on. And I was, really willing something good to happen, that some great, agreement would take place. But the opening up of the beach by Erdogan, makes me feel, gosh, there could be a sequel in that story. I don't think it will be quite yet, but it certainly opened up my interest in it again. And as I say, gosh, yes, it's become a hot topic again, and I would like it to have a good resolution. But certainly from the point of view of sequels, something that I never said I'd do, I wouldn't say never for The Sunrise. Yeah.
Oh, so Jane says, I love your characters. As you write, have you already got an idea as where their lives and stories will lead, or do they evolve as you write?
It's a kind of both are right in a way. I do both, because I write a synopsis generally, so I do know roughly where my characters are going, but very often they take me by surprise and do something that I didn't expect them to do, and then the plot slightly changes because I have to respond to that. In One August Night, I had less idea. I did need to see where they would go and what they would do. It's the first book that I haven't written a synopsis for, because it felt more organic than that. But characters, definitely, you as a writer get to know them more as the story goes on, and they do evolve. And I think if they don't evolve, then even as the writer, you think that they're a bit wooden. Nothing has happened to them. They haven't learnt anything. They haven't had any shocks or surprises or obstacles. So I usually normally I know roughly the plot, because history often dictates the plot, if I'm following some, chronological sequence of events. But I hope the characters sort of live and react to those events in a slightly surprising way, even for me.
Lovely, thank you for that. Hilary says, have you got plans to write a story set in a different country?
Oh, I think the simple answer is no.
The answer.
Not certainly, again, never say never. That's my motto, never say never. But I don't envisage it. I think I still have so many kind of ideas and themes that get sparked when I'm in Greece, that I think I might have enough to keep me going for some time. So no, I just don't see myself. It's funny, isn't it? You ask it and I think, gosh, no. I wrote a novel set in Spain, The Return, which was a really exciting experience, because I hadn't quite got myself so immersed in Greece then. But since The Thread, and then The Sunrise, and then Those Who Are Loved, I feel more and more kind of dug in there. And so I don't think so. Certainly not in the UK. I really don't think. I think I'm more likely to set a story in either outer space or Fiji, where I've never been, than in the UK.
Anyway, the research would be more interesting anyway, wouldn't it?
I don't know, because I've never been.
Or outer space,
Yeah.
Okay, we've also got a question here. What gave you the inspiration to write about Cretan life?
Well, it was being there. The first novel was very specifically inspired by Spinalonga. I didn't go thinking, oh, Crete's interesting, love to set a novel here. It was very specifically the leprosy island, which I found so compelling and strange and paradoxical. symbolic. I found Spinalonga just an electrifying experience that first time I went there. So that was really what set me off. And then, you know, as those months went by, as I started to write it, just that lovely feeling that anyone who's been to Crete will know, that if you go up into the mountains, well, not that far into the mountains, just into the hills, into the villages, you know, you feel as though you've gone back in time, you know, because they are still the same as they were in the 50s. And I love that, you know, I love the fact that I could, with, you know, best possible intention, write about that period and really feel what it had been like, because I could sit in the village and almost have that sense of being back a few decades earlier. I didn't feel like I was having to sort of fake it. So the whole combination, it was Spinalonga was the inspiration, but Crete itself, you know, is an extraordinary little country, I call it, rather than an island, because it's so big. But it has a lot of atmosphere and a lot of stories in itself.
I'll have an interesting comment here from somebody called Peter. He says, I'm new to you as an author. I lived in Chorleywood. And in his words, follow your old man. It's your interest. It's my interest today. So that's...
I was actually, he's downstairs, but...
The old man, yeah.
The old man.
The old man. But how far back in time do your novels go?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, how far back in time have you known the old man?
The old man.
That's actually very, very, very surprising answer, I think. How far back in time?
Well, because he's new to your novels.
So, I see.
You know,
well,
when you start writing.
This first one here came out in 2005. So I've been writing novels for 15 years, which is, you know, way less than a lot of novelists my age. But I think I couldn't have started writing when I was younger. You know, I had no ideas and no particular desire to write then. I just wanted to be a reader. So, you know, it's something, again, it's quite a nice job in that you can keep going, you know, as you get older. Which is nice. It's better than being a tennis player. You know, they're all finished by the time they're 35, aren't they?
Footballers even younger.
Yes. Yeah, and I've known Ian for 40 years, which is a lovely figure, isn't it? So it's my 15th year of being a novelist and my 40th year of knowing Ian.
Oh.
So I don't know. Go figure, impressive. As they say.
Impressive. So Krista says, while I've read and own all your books, my favourite book is The Thread. When I visited Thessaloniki, I felt as if I knew the city intimately through your writing. What inspired you to write The Thread?
Gosh, that's lovely. Thank you for saying that. That's such a nice comment. And it is an incredible city. Absolutely extraordinary place. Again, a little bit like Crete, where you feel it coming in through your pores of your skin. And you know, although a lot of it's a very modern city now, you still feel the layers of the history, you know, in a very obvious way. You know, you've got Roman period, you've got Ottoman period, you've got the modern period. There's a lot of very visible signs of history. But the actual, again, moment of inspiration for that book was walking through the streets, and I wasn't in love with Thessaloniki at the beginning because I did find it a bit kind of confusing. I didn't feel very at home there. I was just there for a couple of days, and the first day I wasn't in love with it. And then I came across this monument that looked like a tree, but sort of an upside down tree. And I walked, it was, you know, it drew me, and I went up to it. It's about, gosh, let's say 4 feet high. And I went and looked at the plaque underneath, and it was a memorial to the 50,000 Jews who had lived in Thessaloniki and perished in the Holocaust. And I suppose it was a shock, because I hadn't met many Jewish people in Greece as a whole, and I had no idea that they had any story that connected them with the Holocaust. And of course, as I began to read, it's a huge story and a very big part of Thessaloniki's history. And it was one of the places where there was an almost entire elimination of the Jews from one place. They were very, in a sense, every Greek island, or many Greek islands, have their own story about the Jewish populations, and many of them sort of escaped. But in Thessaloniki, they were almost, methodically pulled together and sent to Auschwitz. So it's a tragic story, but it opened my eyes up, and it was the beginning of just wanting to learn about everything else that was hidden, in a way, what the other hidden stories of the city were. It's a place I've come to love very much, and should definitely be on people's kind of travel itinerary. Once everything opens up again, I really, implore people to have a lovely long 3 or 4 days in Thessaloniki. Is just a joyful experience.
I'm sure we're all dreaming of such places.
Yeah, we're all dreaming. I know, we're dreaming of travel, aren't we?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it will happen. It will happen. Yes.
So Jo says there currently seems to be a growth in books based around Greek mythology. Do you have a favourite myth, and would you be tempted to write about ancient Greece?
Gosh, well, my favourite, the only one that I've ever taken and used was the Daedalus and Icarus story, which is in Carte Postale, which is a couple of books ago now. And I've sort of rewritten that in a sort of slightly modern way. And I enjoyed doing that. But there are some great, Madeline Miller is writing, these amazing books, Circe, and was the first one Achilles, I think. Can't remember first one's name. And she's doing it brilliantly. And I think it takes a great deal of skill. It's wonderful that it's beginning to happen more, that people are sort of turning them, particularly sort of seeing the very feminist, the modern, these incredible female characters, because in Greek, there are a lot of strong women in the Greek myths, and they're really being given a second birth, I think. And I think that's, one of the reasons that people are enjoying those books. So, no, I'm certainly not tempted to write a whole novel set on one, because I think, other people are doing it brilliantly. So I wouldn't sort of go into that area. But I enjoy reading them. They're fantastic.
Thank you. Anne says, what would you say to your 17-year-old self now looking back?
Oh, what a great question. I think have more confidence. I think for children born in certainly women born in the 50s and 60s, we were, certainly a lot of us, I can't generalise for everybody, but women were meant to slightly not be seen and not heard, but we weren't meant to be confident. We weren't meant to really believe in ourselves. That certainly, was my upbringing. Don't get above yourself. Boasting is bad today as it was then, but I don't think women of my age were really told they could achieve exactly the same as men. And because I was in a family with just girls, there wasn't a boy that I was competing with, but I definitely feel I would tell myself to, yes, be more confident. Why not? Believe in yourself. If it was a fridge magnet, it would be believe in yourself.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Another question here. Do you think in years to come that Cyprus will be back to being free and that Turkey will encompass the south?
Oh, who knows? With Mr. Erdogan, unfortunately, I think anything could happen. I spent 6 weeks in Crete this summer, and my friends who were in the military all their leave was cancelled. They were on full-scale alert for possible war with Turkey because he had his not his investigate, what do you call it when they're looking for oil, his research ship, the Oryx Race as it's called, was in Greek waters. So that was one provocation. Then there was the Hagia Sophia being used as a mosque. Now there's Varosha, the beach, and Mochostos. So I don't know. I can't see into the future, but with Erdogan, one's always slightly nervous. Yeah, nervous of being optimistic, frankly. But I know there'll be lots of people in the audience with very first-hand concerns about what happens in Cyprus. Yeah.
So going on to your writing, I mean, obviously you've sort of done this book, which is amazing in a short period of time, and here it is, we're all able to enjoy it now. What sort of plans have you got for the future for writing? The immediate plans. Are you writing now? Or are you just sort of
my absolutely immediate plans are quite challenging. This shows why I need to read Greek and to understand Greek. We've just, I don't know who the we is. I would say we, like I've got someone sitting on my shoulder. I've just signed a contract to make a TV series with ERT, which is the Greek version of the BBC, the government channel. And we're making a series out of Carte Postale, which is the book I mentioned with the Daedalus and Icarus story. So tonight I've got to read in Greek all the kind of treatments for each episode. So my immediate challenge is ploughing my way through many pages of Greek. And then I'm working with the script writers to produce the script. So that's going to be my next few months of work, which fortunately we can do, as we're doing now. We'll be meeting on Zoom. And then it will be filmed in Crete next spring. So that's my immediate project and challenge, let's say.
Exciting, isn't it?
It's very. I'm very excited.
This is a first. You haven't done anything like this before.
Well, The Island was made into a 26-part series, about 12 years ago, and I was pretty involved with that as well. Yeah. But this time I think I'm even more involved for some reason. So probably because I can speak Greek a bit better now. So I'm expected to understand.
Yeah. The legal document's a different thing, isn't it? You may be...
Yes. Fortunately, my contract is in English.
Oh, right.
Yes.
How many episodes are they planning to do?
It's going to be 12. 12 episodes. Yeah. It's going to be something very different. Essentially it's these 12 individual films, like little stories within a bigger overarching kind of a love story. So it's going to be a very exciting thing to work on.
Is this something we might see?
Well, I hope so, because now that we're all used to reading subtitles, there's not such a phobia about we can't possibly, we've all been reading Scandinavian and Swedish or translations from those languages, and French, and lots of us watched Money Heist, which was a Spanish language long-running TV. So there's plenty of evidence that the British can read subtitles. So I'm hoping that we might be able to get it shown on the BBC or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be something to look forward to. Yeah,
It would be.
lovely.
But not too much television, because we should be reading.
Oh no, absolutely. But good quality television.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Ah, is there
Yeah.
no plan? Obviously, that's a massive project. So no plans to sort of, you haven't got the draft of a novel, a new novel.
No, I have started outlining a new novel as well, which I'll be writing next year as well. So, and it does have a Greek theme, not surprisingly.
Right. Oh wow!
Yeah.
So much to look forward to. So much to look forward to.
Well,
Uh,
hopefully I'll come and see you to
yeah,
present that one. Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, let's hope we can meet up. That would be amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Well, I think that's sort of. I think most people have asked questions that need to, and I think sort of our time is up. Victoria, it's such a fascinating evening as always. Delight talking to you.
Well,
So interesting.
lovely to see you, and thank you for being there
No,
for your customers, being there for your authors, and it's a real, always a joy to talk to you.
it's funny, isn't it? Because I think before March, I'd never heard of Zoom.
Me neither. Absolutely. I thought it was an ice. I thought it was an ice lolly.
Yeah, me
Wasn't there
too.
an ice lolly called Zoom?
Exactly. And here we are. It's sort of
Here we are.
common parlance, hasn't it? Sort of
Fantastic.
yeah. So I know everyone's going to sort of get a copy of the book, but I mean these copies are signed, which is really special. The actual book is signed. I gather you went in and
Indeed. Yes, I signed them all for you. Absolutely.
Of course,
One by one.
one for yourself and one for your friend, which will make a great Christmas present. So and we've got all these signed copies at Chorleywood Bookshop. So thank you so much, Victoria.
It's a great pleasure. I really enjoyed it, and thank you to everyone I can't see as well.
Yes, lots of comments coming in. Thank you for a lovely evening and how much they've enjoyed it. So
great.
Thanks, Victoria, and
all
wish
right.
you all the very best with the book. Bye bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.